long. Enough to get through the heavier sections. Then she talks about the war she's been fighting in the background, which isn't at all entertaining. She mentions court and boasts about a victory, because she talks about subpoenas, records, logins, and phone data technologies that transform your private existence into proof. She recounts an instance in which a person approached a judge in an attempt to obtain access to phone records, email records, login credentials, passwords, and even carrier data across several networks. She compares the judge's reaction to a door slamming shut. Not only is it a victory, but it's also a warning. There are people out there who want to reach into their phones instead of merely dispute with bloggers. She says this in a smug, exuberant tone, as if she's proud that served the effort. But she's also letting you know that she has a deeper understanding of the game than most viewers will. She even points out that while individuals may continue to bring up previous cases, time passes and her platform continues to grow. "You can't scare me with paper anymore," she says to the crowd. And that matters because she adopts the stance of someone who believes she understands how stories turn into lawsuits. When she subsequently turns to Funky and Tamar, she is skilled at avoiding certain terms, knowing when to use, allegedly, and navigating assertions without giving the audience the impression that they are hearing something that is prohibited. She then begins preparing the audience for the actual topic by mentioning Funky by name early on, almost as if she wants to see how the audience responds, and her framing isn't impartial. She begins to rhetorically list the number of black women who have been used and dragged, expressing her indignation, incredulity, and disgust. She describes how many people were in the spotlight with him before to the aftermath, but she doesn't refer to it as a pattern. She claims that before witnessing what he just did, she was on the verge of reaching out and offering condolences. That stopped her cold. It's crucial because the documentary isn't just about Tamar. It's also about betrayal, trust, and how a friend can make headlines. She makes a powerful argument, like a dagger wrapped in sarcasm. She claims he's attempting to reframe the relationship so it doesn't appear as like he's dragging a friend again. Friends don't give birthday parties for friends to get to know you. In her cadence, she is reacting to a culture of viewers who believe they already know the story. She is feeding that culture and is aware of it. He is manipulating optics. And the comments, even though we can't completely see them, are implied. And she does something that changes the mood, drawing the spectator into a more subdued period through recollection, voice, tone, and receipts rather than a clear timetable. She claims that Tamar got online following Funky's birthday celebration, party at Live. She says that Funky's mood is obvious, wearable, and recognizable, as if the vibe was off even before the controversy occurred. She adds her own thoughts about why he's constantly in a mood, but she keeps it in the lane of attitude and behavior. However, when the injury post occurs, she doesn't simply quote it. Instead, she uses Jasmine Reddit as a courtroom exhibit. Suddenly, it's no longer just rumors circulating. Jasmine reads, "I was found in a pool of blood, fractured my nose, lost some teeth," using the precise words that served as the basis for everything that followed. The first anchor is that every theory has a place to attach itself once you've established that anchor. She clarifies that Funky became angry because he believed Tar didn't do anything to Tamar, as well as because people suspected him of doing anything to Tamar. Move quickly enough to clear it up. Next, she defends Tar, saying that she had no idea that he was being dragged. Finally, she adds a detail that shapes the whole relationship. She claims to have had a personal conversation with Tamar. She portrays herself as someone who is close to Tamar rather than merely offering opinion, but she doesn't do it in a tidy manner. She shows herself as a messy human. Conflict. If you're Funky and you care about reputation and public narrative, you feel abandoned. If you're Tamar and you're hurt, bewildered, and weak, you're not living on the internet watching who's being blamed. In the comments section, she adds, "The thriller tone deepens when the internet points at you and the person closest to you stays silent because it's not about what happened yet, but about what people think happened and how quickly those thoughts become facts." Another important fact is that, according to the transcript, Funky stated that the only thing they discussed was Tamar phoning Dr. Heavenly to have her teeth corrected, symbol, a friend who claims he's being pulled, and a friend who needs a dentist's number are examples of commonplace, even trivial details that people hold to because they seem genuine. Then she introduces the larger machinery. She begins by characterizing Funky's fanbase as strange, a relationship in which the fans are aware that he doesn't truly like them, but they continue to watch him because he is knowledgeable. She mentions that he drags black women and speaks harshly to them. She also adds that others are now making fun of him. because he must be treated by nurses from 9 to 5. All of this is setting the tone. Oh, this isn't a community. It's a volatile crowd circling a volatile personnel. Then she moves on to the section where she begins to express her own view and opinion, labeling it as such. She says she thinks Funky is speaking the truth about what he saw, but she also thinks he waited for a moment, a life or death moment, to express it. She refers to it as Armageddon time, but she keeps framing it as a psychological trigger. When someone goes through something intense, the mask slips off, the old agreements dissolve, and suddenly secrets become currency. It's in the category of commentary rather than proof. It's still story, vibe, and analysis. This is where Section 1 aligns with the title you provided, because despite the transcript you've pasted, there isn't a real DNA test. The public is eager for a clear response, whether favorable or negative. And the transcript is all about confirmation culture. According to insiders, viewers' claims and what she said are viewed like confirmation. The documentary lens zooms in on the transcript, which is disorganized with its mood, reaction, backstory, and one focal incident that is always being interpreted real or fabricated, guilty or innocent. When individuals don't have the complete record, they construct a case out of bits, which is the most dangerous aspect. Lastly, she plays the tape that sharpens the mood from conjecture. She doesn't present it like a discussion. Rather, she presents it like evidence being shown on a screen. Funky speaks frankly, in depth, with discomfort, and with accusation presented as his personal observation. Funky claims he was uncomfortable, talks about Tamar kissing and sitting on Mendeecees' lap in the car, and says he drove home before dropping the crucial phrase. He claims the persons who went upstairs with her were and his friend, so if anyone knows what happened to her teeth, it's them. He doesn't say he witnessed what transpired upstairs. Instead, he frames it as reasoning based on who was there. But the way he says it, Funky identifies Mendeecees and his best friend as the people that went upstairs. And this is when the online reaction becomes unavoidable, because once you utter a name that directs it, Tasha's tone instantly changes and she begins referring to Funky as a Mode-type person, claiming that no matter how many times you add it, people will clip it, publish it, and repeat it like a headline. It becomes a weapon you can't put back in the drawer. Someone who waits for a moment to reveal information. She presents his actions as a pattern, mentioning how he targets followers and podcasts, drags individuals, and moves about beef without providing any evidence. She is portraying him as someone who carries ammunition. And then she goes back to Tamar, strengthening the argument, stating that she feels the initial injury post was given an alibi. She presents it as a tactic rather than an accident and acknowledges that she doesn't feel sorry for Tamar in order to generate uncertainty and an explanation that leaves Tamar alone with a friend, so that there's no way she could have been with Mendeecees, in her own direct manner, which only serves to inflame the resentment of those who prefer a victim narrative. However, she also makes a remark that undermines the notion that Tamar deserved it. Tamar didn't actually do anything. The cliff edge part I finish on is that Funky is the one escalating, since he believes she should have publicly defended him while she was dealing with her own issue, and that Funky neglected to mention him. Side by side, the physical incident that Tamar's posts, the blood, the teeth, the fear is one reality, the social incident the blame, the quiet, the anger. When those two realities collide, the story shifts from being about what happened in a house to something colder. Who gets to control the narrative when everyone is watching, and before the next film even loads, everyone is prepared to convict someone. The room shifts as soon as the clip plays, and although we are still in the same live, the laughter fades, the jokes slow down because the story becomes directional after Funky's words are spoken. Names are associated, timelines are hinted at, and all of a sudden everyone watching feels as though they are being forced to choose who they trust before the facts ever. Beyond that, Tasha sits in it, letting the discomfort breathe, and begins dragging the camera backward. Once more, rather than attempting to tidy it up, she reminds viewers by widening the frame that this didn't begin with Funky's clip, Mendeecees' name being written into comments, or a DNA rumor. She explains that, in her opinion, Funky wanted allegiance in real time. It's not private loyalty, not a phone call, and it began with quiet. The way silence is weaponized online. Public loyalty is the kind that appears quickly enough to prevent a story from developing. And when that didn't happen, he felt exposed and abandoned. She presents it as a psychological turning point instead of rather than a planned rollout, stating that he came to the conclusion that he was done defending anyone but himself. At that point, she presents the concept that is more important than any one accusation: sequence versus aftermath. She claims that Tamar speaks in aftermath. She never guides the audience through the sequence of events or provides a detailed description of the night itself, focusing instead on the harm caused by Fenrir's terror, astonishment, and uncertainty, cause. Funky, on the other hand, speaks in a sequential manner, car trip, body language, and because the harm is evident, it instantly becomes credible. His narrative proceeds step by step, and even incompleteness makes step-by-step narratives seem plausible. Tasha doesn't mention who sat where, who walked upstairs, and who didn't. She claims that they are employing two distinct story languages, and that the internet favors one of those languages over the other. She also notes that when people began alleging Funky Tamar was, she stresses that she personally thinks Tamar didn't even realize he was being dragged at first. But from Funky's perspective, that doesn't matter because public damage doesn't wait for context. That Tasha swings towards a darker motive, emotional rather than criminal, and implies that Funky didn't blow up. When people go through life or death scares, they reevaluate who they've been protecting. She adds, framing it around health, stress, and the burden of medical expenses, algorithms, and relevancy, and why. And occasionally, that reassessment becomes confession because it feels required rather than because it is appropriate. The documentary tone picks up at this point, as she isn't debating whether Funky ought to have spoken, she is debating why he spoke now. And she cautions without identifying specific targets that celebrities who sat near him, shared space with him, and laughed with him would want to pay heed. She characterizes it as a change from friendship to survival mode, when secrets cease to feel holy, and then she turns around. He's lying, but because he's no longer invested in silence. Returning to Tamar, but not kindly, she says she doesn't feel sorry for her because she thinks Tamar is aware of the kind of chaos she lives in. Not because she feels she deserved anything. She presents it as a protracted sequence of disorganized settings, hazy boundaries, and drunken evenings that culminate in bewilderment. She is cautious, at least legally, to present this as opinion and rumor, claiming that what others say is even so. The insinuation that this incident wasn't unexpected and that it resulted from a lifestyle where boundaries are already blurred strikes hard. She then returns to the injury post once again. She reinterprets it as a tactic, stating that she thinks the post served as an alibi, whether on purpose or not, by portraying Tamar as fragile, injured, and alone with a friend, making it difficult to determine who she was with. This is when the audience's reaction breaks down. Based on her tone and timing, some viewers are nodding, suggesting that confusion was the goal, not to permanently mislead the public, but to interrupt the current story long enough for the heat to subside. Tasha doesn't calm either side into the conflict. Others are incensed rather than apprised. Reminds viewers that no one is genuinely claiming possession of him in this story. Neither are openly attempting to do so because friction keeps people interested. She then goes back to Funky once again, this time with